So here we are with an L83 5.3, a 2019 Suburban in particular. We started with just taking these coolant lines off here, got the intake off. I try to pull the intake with the hard lines, leave them on the intake. Anything you can leave together as a big assembly is always better. Getting ready to kind of figure out what we're gonna do next. Probably drain the coolant and just get this front assembly out of here. I'm already pissing a little bit of water there. Like I say, we'll get this radiator out, drain the coolant, try to keep it, and then we'll pull the intake, valve covers, rockers, assemblies, header bolts probably, and then pull the heads, get the front off. We'll see. We'll be back. So a quick tip, do not just start taking these trans cooler lines off unless you already know, but this is an AC line. It has the same style connection. You can pull that spring clip out and the sumbitch practically blow up in your face because there's probably 150, 200 psi pressure in there on the high side of that AC compressor, and this is 1, 2, 3, 4 Y F Freon. So if you don't have those connectors, you're going to be going to Harbor Freight, spending $200, $300 on a set of gauges to then put $80 worth of Freon back in it because you just yanked that off instead of just slowing down and making sure you're pulling the correct lines off. Because you just got to pull these trans coolers. You can leave this to the side, and we'll just work this radiator right out the top. I got to pull this top assembly off, I do believe. Maybe not. I think I may be able to lay it forward and just pick it on up out of there. We'll have to wait and see. Because the condenser is probably bolted to the front of it. I haven't done one on this particular car, so we'll find out. Okay, so now I've got this radiator separated from the condenser. It was kind of a pain. Of course, I took the top cover off here. This cover goes over the condenser. If you lean the radiator forward and go down and unclip them, you can start over here, is how I did it, and pulled it out and just slid it down and pulled that top cover off. Then you have access. There's a little tab right there that you push in and pick up on the condenser, and it'll separate it from the radiator. The clips on the fan are kind of a pain. They got these long tabs. You slide them away from the clip to then allow it to unlock. They kind of slide in, kind of like the red tabs do going sideways. This oil cooler, not transmission cooler, but oil cooler lines took off. Had to kind of pull this back a little bit. The main thing that was a pain is this little bolt right here, and it goes right there to that little bracket. That the bolt goes this way and holds those AC condenser lines. Take a 10 mil and you should be able to loosen it with your fingers once you get it broke loose. I'm about to crack the lower radiator line, pull the radiator out, and then start on the engine side. Now that all this will be out of our way, and then clean all this up to be out of our way, but then go over here. All right, we got the radiator out. That was no problem. Got these hoses pushed down. Went ahead and took the lower radiator hose completely out, so it's out of our way. We've gotten this far. All we've used is a 1/2 inch, 10 mil, 8 mil, my hose screwdriver. This, you can see what the heck we've used. I ain't got to tell you. Pry bar didn't really have to use it, but anyway, here we are. I guess now I'm gonna go ahead and get the drive assembly took apart, get the alternator out of my way, water pump out of my way. That'll just give us a lot more room to get up here. When I pull the intake, I can just kind of pick it up, slide it forward, instead of having to pick it up, get over the alternator, get over all this crap. Once I get all this out, I'll take the wiring harness, unplug everything that needs to be unplugged, lay it out of the way, and then the intake will come off, valve covers. You have to drop the AC compressor out of the way because that bracket's all in one piece and it's in the way to get the front cover out. There's a stud on this bottom one. It's a 3/16 on your 1/4 inch drive for the star head, and just kind of easily tap on it with your impact and it'll get it out of there. Because if you strip this head off, it's a real big pain in the butt to get all this apart, but you really need to get this pin out, and it's a 3/16, and like I said, get it on there real good, and just kind of tap on it and it'll come out of there, and then that'll allow you to drop that AC compressor down. Alright, we got the intake off of it. You got to pop all the wiring off of the side, and when you get it loose, pick it up, slide it to you just a little bit to where you can get behind it with your little pry tool. I went in from the left side, my left hand, and popped it, and that unclipped this big wire loom bracket from the back. You can see it was clipped in here and here and here. Got that off. Now I will go in and take the hard lines off. I'm going to leave the rails to the heads is what I'm going to try to do. I'd rather not pull that out. There's some special little seals in there that kind of seal the injector in the head, and you really don't want to fuck that up. So do your best to try to leave that stuff together. But yeah, that's next. Hard lines, valve covers, header bolts, spark plugs, pull the heads, and then pull the front cover. Got to pull the balancer. I think I have to slide the power steering pump out of the way to get the front cover off, but it looks like I don't. I don't know. We'll find out. But yeah, that easy. This is the little baffle that goes above that, but yep. You take a pick like this, and you pop her right up, okay? That's how you do them. Don't go in there and break your fingernails. Don't go in there and break the freaking clips out. Just do it right. Use this thing, and you can go right in there, and you can pop it right up. No problem. Alright. May not think so, but holding a 3/8 wobble deep 10 just right. We'll get that back bolt out. Didn't strip, didn't hurt it at all. When I go back in, I'll run it down with the wobble. I'll run it down, and then I'll take a wrench and I'll snug it so I know it's tight. You don't want to try to do that going the opposite way, but if you can crack them, they'll usually come right out. You don't have to sit there and fight that back bolt and be scared of it. Just knock it out. I use my little finger grabbers here, and that's how I pull the plug wires. I went down that back one underneath the steering shaft, pulled it right out. Spin them first. If you get them to spin, you'll pull them off. If they don't spin, you will break them. Now I'll finish pulling the valve cover, which is just like 1 or 2 bolts. Pull that out of my way. Then I'll get the header bolts out. Do the same on the other side. Probably do the rocker assembly, whatever. But I'm going to do the same on that side. And then we'll probably come back when I'm cracking the head bolts loose and go from there. Oh, I got to do all this stuff too, but we'll see you. Alright, so here's where we're at now. Right after we talked about that, these suckers are all about to break. Dang it, every one of them. They're bad. Alright, I've got everything off, got the manifolds out of the way. You don't have to pull them all the way out. I went ahead and pulled them all the way out. I need to fix the studs in the bottom anyway. It wasn't hard. These bolts come out real easy. All the manifold bolts pretty much broke, so that's gonna suck. I gotta weld nuts to them and figure that out. I've got this head totally unbolted, rails unplugged, that line's undone. I am about to pull this head off, set it to the side, and likely just do it to the other side, pull it off. Then the valley cover will come out, then I can get the front cover done and go from there. Got to get the grounds off the back of the head as well real quick, and we'll pull it on out. Alright, we got the heads pulled off there. As I said, I just cracked them fuel lines, yanked them off. I crack all the bolts loose, and then I take my impact, my little DeWalt impact with a 1/2 inch and a wobble, and I pull the head bolts all out so I don't have to sit there and finger them because they suck. Got all of those out, and then the heads just come right off. Like I said, I leave the direct injection together. Some vehicles, the tips of the injectors will stick out just a little bit, so you have to be really careful, such as like a diesel. But these, they're actually recessed, so there is absolutely no reason to pull these rails off. And I would not, because those seal up sometimes, are problematic. But yeah, got the heads off, got to get the bolts out of them that broke, and get the valve springs put in. But other than that, I mean, Pretty easy process. Need to do the front cover and the cam next. But we got a little pile of parts. Staying organized. And we'll get back at it. Alright, so we're getting the valve springs pulled out. I'm going to get the new seats put in and the new valve springs put in, the dual spring. Oh, got to get these out. See, these have been broke for a while. Got to weld some stuff to that and pull her out of there. There's several, of course. So for instance, on this cylinder, these valve seats here are blown out. And you can see when we tore it down how this was a discolored section of the engine compared to all the other rockers. And it's because we had lifter issues here, and all the combustion in the cylinder couldn't escape, so it was blowing it past the valve seats because the lifters weren't opening all the way or whatever else, you know. And we got some soot here, see all that falling off? Yeah, these suckers are toast. So we're gonna get her freshened up good. But I had to use my big pliers to clamp my plier. Freaking oinkers, go on, buddy. What are you doing, dude? Yeah? Okay. You gonna help work on the... Ow! Quit! Get back! Go on! Come on! Come on! Come here, oinkers! Golly. Anyway, we'll get her done. Stop it! We have the kit, of course, the Texas Speed kit. Always use the valve spring, valve seats and stuff they provide because they're made for double springs. Oinkers, go on! Get all this put in. This compressor is gonna suck with these little suckers. Alright. Now we got all these valve springs put in. Worked out pretty good. This tool actually does fine. I just have to use my big pliers to squeeze them, and then I can do what I need to do. But all the valves are in, everything's great. It's got one more to do. We'll get all the freaking broken studs out of it. Oinkers finally left me alone. We'll get this other one done. Once again, pull your old valve seals out with a pair of channel locks. Take your new ones. I start them all, so I just can run down the list. And take your socket. In this case, on the LS 11/16, seems to be chrome deep, seems to be a good fit. You go on here, give her some tap. Hear the sound difference, and typically all that oil that's sitting there splats you right in the face, so you'll know. Anyway, make sure there's no carbon buildup down there causing your valve seat to be offset or anything. I go in here and clean each one with the rag around the tops. There you go. Alright, got both heads done. Now we just got to go get the studs out of the exhaust and then start going back together. Everything went well. So we got the heads done and everything, all that's finished, but we're kind of held up right now because of this dang crank bolt. It's tighter than tight. 1/2 inch impact is not doing nothing. I did put a good breaker bar to it all the way to the hood. We got plenty of leverage on it, and I gave her a good pull and it did not feel good. I don't think it was close. So before we tear up the head of that bolt, because if you do that, you are screwed, I've got my 3/4 inch impact, my big air gun. That's what this one looks like here. My problem is I don't have a 15/16 on a 3/4. I have bigger on 3/4. I go up to 1 inch on my 1/2 inch set. So I need to grab me a good socket and get that bolt out, because a breaker bar will not do it. You're liable to break more stuff, including yourself. Impact's the best way to go, but my 1/2 inch is just not strong enough. I've got another 1/2 inch gun that's pretty strong and it didn't do it, so we got to go to that 3/4. It's a lot heavier hitting, and it should just knock it right loose no matter how tight it is, and we'll get her out of there. But that has definitely got us held up and is a pain in the butt. Alright, we got that bolt out. We pulled the crank balancer, and then we took all the bolts out for the front cover. As you can see, you don't have to pull the power steering pump doohickey. There's just 2 bolts right here on the front. You can get them with your easily with your weeble wobbly 1/2 inch ratchet wrench. You just get your nuts off the wire loom for the front. There is a wire inside here, so just kind of let this lay. It's going to be stuck real good, so slowly work it off or you'll crack it. Don't do that. Customer will have to pay for that. Well, you'll have to pay for that. Anyway, now we're going to put it in time. Number 1, get it up, make sure the cam's in line, which it really doesn't matter where the cam is. If you got the bottom end at number 1, when you put the new cam in, as long as it's at number 1, the engine knows it's at number 1. Regardless, we just need to get the bottom end definitely at TDC. It's better to put the timing mark already, but it doesn't matter because we're putting the cam in, and we'll put the cam at number 1 if this is out of orientation, because the heads won't know, nothing knows. The only thing that knows is the bottom end. Regardless, that's what we're about to do right now, is pull this cam out and get the new cam in. This is kind of tricky. We got to do the phaser delete deal, so we got to take the phaser apart and stuff. But yeah, everything's good. Before you loosen the cam, take your little pry bar, which I use this one, and you put it behind the chain and pry against the chain to push your tensioner, which will then increase it like a leaf spring, and then slide in your nifty Allen head, and your chain tensioner is now hung. And now you can take your cam bolt loose and get all that done. So this is really tricky. This chain, I've already got it off. If you get it, you get all your slack on your side over here, okay? You get it kind of in a bind where it's trying to come off this side. You'll be able to let go, and it'll sit there for just a second, and it'll usually fall right back into place. You know, it's frustrating. Well, when you get it to that spot, go to the first link that has it bound up, which is usually around this section, and put you a pick in between that link and the chain, and easily walk each link up. Because what it is this chain is still loose down here, but you're in a bind and it's not letting it travel up the chain. So you need to kind of walk that looseness up, and then it'll finally go, and it'll come off, and you'll be able to get your chain off. So when you're doing these plugs, they don't fit, you know. It's kind of a tricky situation. You're gonna drop them. Well, take you a punch and give her a couple good little taps like that. Pull her back out of there, and now you gave yourself just enough for that to fall right down into place. And just like that, they're all in. Put your valley cover back on, and go from there. Whatever you do, don't drop them down in there, or you're gonna have a shitty week putting all this back together just for that. But we didn't have that problem. We now just have to do the phaser delete, and we're pretty much done. Fired up. We got the phaser lockout thing put in. Cam phaser, all that's put back on. We're back in time. I put a little mark right here so I can see where the line would be, and I can point that to where I need to be. Like I said, TDC here, faux show. If you're a tooth out, you're gonna know it. You're gonna be like over here when you're right here. It's really hard to get them a tooth out. I got gasket material back on here. These don't use a gasket, they use silicone. I use anaerobic stuff. You don't have to. I prefer it. It's 80 bucks a tube though, especially when you're near oil stuff, because whatever squeezes out, it won't hurt the system. Regardless, we're gonna get this put back on. Need to get a crank shield put in it real quick. We'll do that. When I put the pulley the balancer back on, make sure to put it on with the belt so you don't have to fight that later. We would do it with the AC one as well, but can't do that. We'll have to fight it later. Regardless, we're going to get this put back on. We're going to throw the lifters in. They've been sitting here soaking in oil. And the valley cover's done. The plugs are in. And yeah.
Always know that if you have a broken exhaust bolt that you want to weld a nut to it. You don't want to drill it. You don't want to ease out it. You just need to take a washer, weld the washer to the stud, and then weld the nut to the washer. And then it'll come right out every time. I have taken manifold bolts out that were broke off an inch down in the head, particularly on Caterpillar engines. And you can get them out, and you won't have to helicoil it. You won't have to put a new head on it when you fucking drill through this thing and go into the water jacket like I've seen several people do. You just do that right there and take it out. Easy. Alright, we got the head cleaned up. The block's clean as well. Make sure you get all the stuff off of it. I just use a good wire wheel. Get that done. Got the block clean, got the head gasket on, got the dowels put in all the way, which is pretty obvious, I guess. We're about to set the head on it, put the head bolts in it, and just let it set. We'll do the same to the other side. Torque the heads, put the manifolds on, go from there. But the torque spec is 59, then 90 degrees, and 60 degrees. But we've got them all to 59. About to do the degree on them, get the manifolds put on, get the rocker assembly put on, get the intake put on, valve covers, get the engine side done, plugged in to where all I've got to do is water pump, alternator, pulley accessories, water, and then that's it. So yeah, that was easy. That's all it took. Alright, the heads are on, torqued down, degreed, all that's done. Got the rockers put in, got the valve covers put on, cool packs plugged in, spark plugs and all that. Of course, we didn't have to mess with any of that. Manifolds are bolted down. We're about to get under there and put the down pipes, hook those up, those 6 bolts that go to that. We'll get them put on, so we'll be done underneath. Come back, get up here, tighten up our fuel line that we removed, and put the intake on. Do it once over, make sure we got our grounds in the back of the head on, which there's only one over here, and this one I leave long and do it up there. Get the intake on and make sure it's all plugged in, give it a good look to make sure there's no hidden wire that we forgot before we put it on. Then we just have to do the front assembly, water pump, little things like that, that compressor, and that's it. So we'll be back in just a minute. Alright, we got the manifold downpipes bolted up to the manifolds. That's all done, good and tight. Got the intake put on, that's done. All the coils are plugged in, intake should all be plugged in. All the vacuum lines are routed and plugged in, except for, I guess, that breather. But water pump ports are wire wheeled, cleaned up. We're about to put the water pump on it. Then the alternator, or we may do the alternator first. I can't remember. You got to do one or the other, I think. About to check it out. I may have to do the alternator stuff first. And I'm going to go ahead and put the AC. Well, I guess that's all together. Anyway, we're going to get that done, and I'll explain it when I get finished. Alright, we got all the accessories on. You have to do the water pump first, and then the alternator bracket deal will stack over that. And then you can do your AC compressor, which is that stud that'll slide through, and that other doohickey like normal, which is right down there. Then you can throw your belt on. I've already plugged and wired everything up. I put my heater core hoses on. You've got your, I threw the radiator in. Got all the plastics and stuff put back together on it. So the radiator's in and done and tight. Everything that I do with this little impact, you always want to go back and check them with your ratchet, just to make sure that they are snugged up, because sometimes it'll lie to you. Transmission cooler lines are all put in and snapped in. That's done. Now all that's left is putting the fan shroud on, and really the intake and water, and that should be it. But that is the front accessories. All right, that was easy. We got everything back together. Intakes put on. As I said, we got the front drive assembly done. We got the fan shroud put on. All that plugged in. All these little clips and stuff that go there. When we took it off, as I said, when we used the right tools, none of that got damaged. So everything clips right back up. Everything plugs back in like factory. Nothing should vibrate and fall off. All of these little shrouds and stuff are put back in as they should. This shroud's put back on. None of these clips got broke. If you break these clips, replace them. O'Reilly's for $15. You can get a set of these clips. All these hoses, all the clamps that we dealt with, we put on and kind of wiggled to double check that they cinched up. That was a huge problem. You'll put this back together and have to take it halfway back apart for a clamp down there, and you could have just simply solved that issue as you were there. So this is just kind of a recap of everything. Intake bolts especially, always go back with your ratchet to make sure them are cinched, and check your rear ones when you get back to the front, just because it does move quite a bit when you're torquing it down. One thing I did forget, I didn't put the dipstick back in till just now. It was fine and easy. It goes in front of the rear spark plug, not behind the spark plug. It goes in front of it, and it will slide right down in. You can get underneath, guide it in, and then get back on top, and it'll right back in. All these hoses, vacuum lines, everything's cinched up. We're pretty much done. We're just waiting on the computer. We'll plug it in and we should be back in action. We got fresh oil and all that. Need to put this battery cap on when we plug the battery in, but other than that, we should be good to go. Any questions or concerns, I guess, let me know. Hopefully I didn't miss anything, but I'm pretty thorough when I do these, and there's a reason for it, because 90% of the time when I get done with one like this, I can go in there, hit the key, and this car can pull out of here with the customer and leave. So that's the hope and the plan, and that's the point of trying to do stuff right. Here until the next one.